I think I have been overthinking recording this, and I think I'm overthinking right now. And I think that is very much because since doing my Cambridge PhD experience videos, which I loved doing, I guess there's like a couple more followers. And although this is very much like a personal channel with just a small handful of people following, there is still this intimidation and kind of fear of being perceived, and just loads of worrying about like what if. And yeah, there was a lot of like in my head, or there still is, like, what if my supervisor sees this? What if like a manager sees this? What if my students see this? And I tried to challenge myself and be like, yeah, what if they see it? And it's like, well, what if you get fired? What if you get in trouble? What if you upset someone? And I guess I'm trying to remind myself quite calmly that as long as I am being true to myself and living by my values, then any consequence of that isn't a bad thing. No matter how much I like catastrophize, if I am being true to myself, if I'm being authentically me, then it's like, what regrets can I have? And I don't want to imply, oh my gosh, like my values are so aligned that everything I do is going to be great. But I think there's an element of like, if you make mistakes, you just need to own that. If you feel a bit embarrassed, you just have to own that. And yeah, that whole thing of like feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So with that in mind, I guess welcome back to my channel. My name is Éireann. I talk a bit about my own student journey, more so at the moment than the content I'd like to make. And I sometimes offer support, advice and guidance on navigating your own journey as a student, undergraduate or postgraduate. And yeah, this is more so just an exercise in me overcoming my fear of uploading again. I am so inconsistent. I promise it's not intentional. But I am back, and I'm back after like the Easter break, basically. So now in Cambridge, we are on what's called Easter term, which is basically exam term if you're an undergraduate student. And maybe, yeah, it's still exam term even if you're a postgrad and don't have exams, because the whole uni kind of shifts into that mode of like focusing, less teaching and more, I guess, like independent study. So the vibe has changed, and people feel like, I don't want to say a lot more intense, but the energy is just so different, and I'm very aware of that. And I am trying to do what I can to take care of myself throughout that, as well as be there for those who need me. What's difficult is like, although the energy changes, the weather usually gets a lot nicer, and the environment is so much nicer in terms of like the physical sense. Like Cambridge is a beautiful city, and knowing that there are so many opportunities to like go around and explore, have longer days, is really, really exciting. So I am looking forward to that. But I guess before talking about Easter term or May or whatever kind of period I'm stepping into, I wanted to reflect on how April went and a bit of March, and just basically the break. So teaching stopped, and undergraduates tend to vacate and leave the city, and things are just a bit quieter. So as a postgrad student, as a PhD student, like, I stayed here. I kind of continued as normal-ish, but with a decreased timetable, which is really, really nice. So I was not supervising students, although I kind of was just doing it online. But that's because the students I supervised had coursework. But essentially, like, my workload went down, at least in terms of like the work I do on the side working with students. And my PhD got to come to the centre a bit more, but on top of that, I got to explore the city and just, yeah, like, exist in a slower pace, which is so needed here. Yeah, uni's so intense, PhDs are so intense, Cambridge is so intense. So I'm really grateful to have the opportunity to slow down. And as part of that, I got to see a lot of friends, which I was really grateful for, including just spending time with friends I see on a regular basis, who, because our timetable is much more free, like I could just enjoy their company more, do activities we maybe haven't done yet, or make the most of like the good weather. And that was really, really enjoyable. In addition to that, like I had friends come over to Cambridge, and I don't know, I feel really, really blessed when like somebody makes the journey to you, because there is a lot of, understandably, like, let me know when you're in London, let me know when you're in London. But to have a friend be like, yeah, I'll get on the train, like I'll come visit you, is really, really like, yeah, just really kind. So that was really nice, and I got to, yeah, just like show friends Cambridge and go into colleges and yeah, kind of like explore a bit basically. In addition to that, I got to stay with my friend for a bit. So I left Cambridge and stayed up in Newcastle, and that was really, really restorative. And yeah, as nice as it is having like a decreased timetable and having a quieter city, there is something to be said about changing your environment completely and just leaving and going somewhere else. So I stayed with my friend in Newcastle. I didn't record at all. And it was really nice. And I think when things are that level of meaningful to me or that important, I tend to like not record and not share at all. I know it sounds a bit weird, but there is an element of almost treasuring something so much and kind of personally saying like, this is for me and I'm going to keep this to myself. And maybe I won't have loads of photos, and maybe I won't have loads of videos or much recorded, but I know that I get to experience this moment. I don't know if that makes sense, but stayed in Newcastle, and that was great, and that was so necessary, and I'm so grateful, so grateful to my friend for letting me stay there and letting me to some degree fall apart in that space, and rebuild over the week. So yeah, thank you to you. I've also had the chance to have a bit more alone time, which I've really enjoyed. And I think as part of that, I have just really tried to like, it's gonna sound so airy-fairy, but like reconnect with myself, both physically and mentally. Of course, I'm continuing to go to a gym, but I've like tried to incorporate different things every now and then, from like boxing to skipping to yoga. And I think the thing about doing something new or new to you physically is it kind of forces you to like be very aware of your body. And of course I get that in doing powerlifting, but it's become kind of such a regular thing that it feels, well, it's unconscious basically. And it feels like I'm not aware of it. Whereas to do something new and to actively learn something requires like so much focus, because it's potentially your first time doing it or you're not very good at doing it, so you have to think that bit harder. And that for me is really, really mindful. So I've enjoyed that. In addition to those physical feelings, I guess I have been very emotional, which again isn't the biggest surprise, and is something I always feel a bit weird sharing, but I'm trying to be more vulnerable and be more comfortable with being vulnerable. But I also don't think me being more emotional or more sensitive has been a bad thing. Everything feels quite raw at the moment. And that means that, at least for me, everything feels like really heightened. And that means like sad things can feel very sad. And that's okay, because there aren't loads of sad things and I'm grateful for that. But then it also means happy things are like intensely happy, and that in itself is like really overwhelming. I know on the Receipts podcast, Audrey talks about like having a panic attack from being so happy, or being like so joyful. And I don't think I would describe it as that, but it is this element of like, I am so overwhelmed by this positive emotion, like I genuinely might explode. So I've had moments like that. And again, I think in some instances I have recorded them and documented them, and in others, at least in that very moment, I've kind of been like, oh, I could tell a friend that I'm feeling this right now, but I've thought to myself, like, this is a moment you want to have for yourself, just sit in it, just be held by it, and then document it or share it or whatever. So April has been full of a lot of those, and there's been so many feelings of chaos in between and around those moments. But I am embracing them anyway, and yeah, just trying to keep moving forward, despite emotions kind of being like all over the place. And although there has been that chaos, there still have been like really regular things that just go on as normal and are really grounding. So again, even with a reduced teaching timetable and a kind of more relaxed energy within the city and the university, I've still made it my business to like go to the faculty on a regular basis and work there and keep that routine. And that has really, just been grounding, just made things feel normal. It's really, routine is so important for me. But yeah, that has been good. And with that, it's worth thinking about like what my intentions are moving forward this term. Again, things are a bit different. There is a different energy. It's not super busy, or it can be just busy in a different way. But I am thinking of my goals anyway. First and foremost, putting my PhD front and center. That is a really important intention because, as is made clear, I do 1,000,001 things and they are often not my PhD. So my PhD is my focus, and I should like make this my alarm clock. My PhD is my focus, front and center, main course on my plate. And this term, that looks like data collection, particularly running workshops and focus groups with participants, as well as doing some follow-up interviews. And I'm excited for that because although I'm introverted, like I do really enjoy talking to people. I am really energized by like hearing people's stories, by hearing what they have to say, by facilitating conversations. So I'm looking forward to that. In addition to that, I guess the kind of same old, like stick to a routine, stay healthy, do all of that. Kind of, that is standard. I have loads of days out that I'm really looking forward to. So just like a couple of day trips with friends and family. And that will be quite nice in terms of short breaks away from Cambridge. In addition to that, but this is kind of following on from May, I will be going to conferences, which I'm so excited about. I'll be going to conferences all outside of the UK, which is really exciting, and I'll be documenting them. That means I do need to do some prep work for them, but I have done all my bookings and made sure someone's looked over them. So hopefully no like mistakes or drama as happened at the conference I went to last year, or my own doing in terms of my, I don't want to say inability, but limitations when it comes to, I guess, travel admin. But I have done a lot this year to make sure things like that don't happen, or anything that does happen, at least I've tried to control as much as possible. So I'm really excited about those. And besides that, just thinking off the top of my head, I think I really want to be more intentional about my downtime and any time I spend alone. I think at present, I'm spending so much time with friends and I love it. I'm so grateful for it. And I'm spending so much time in the faculty, which I also really enjoy and also really need in terms of structure. But it then means that when I am alone and when I have unstructured, unscheduled downtime, I kind of have no idea what to do with myself. And I think I see that as like, because I'm no longer visible or in work mode, I'm just like off completely. And actually, I think in the way I have expectations when I meet up with friends or when I go like to work or, to do research in the faculty, I think I need to have intentions about the time I spend with myself. And that doesn't mean everything needs to be structured. I think it's actually really good to just lie down and read or scroll or whatever. Like I think people do, there's nothing wrong with that, like kind of decompression. People need to do that. but I would like to be more intentional about the time I spend with myself, in that I don't want to see it as like, oh, this is the time when I'm doing nothing. I want to perceive it as I'm doing something. Or if I am doing nothing, that's also fine, but like, I mean to do this. I'm not just doing this because there is nothing being expected of me or because everyone's busy. I have scheduled this time and I have, an intention in terms of how I'd like to use this time or what I'd like to gain from it, just so I don't see my downtime as like nothing or as time that I wish I had filled otherwise, but I'm only engaging in alone time because there's nothing else to do. I don't want it to seem like a last resort. I want it to seem like something I care about and prioritize and I have an intention with. I don't know if that makes sense, but I'll try and explain it at some point, depending on how it goes. But I just want to feel like the time I spend with myself has a purpose, rather than just being an absence of time with anyone else or in any other space. Finally, I think I want to reflect more and reflect on a regular basis, and I think that's where making videos comes in, and that's also why I maybe was overthinking and feeling vulnerable. Of course, I really want to talk about PhD study, I really want to talk about university, I really want to talk about applications and admissions, and I really plan to. That's also another thing I need to be intentional about. But I also want to talk really openly about, I don't know, the importance of like thinking differently, by which I mean like changing your mindset, because whilst I encourage, I don't know, having like aspirational intentions with your education, I also am aware that like I pretty much burnt out or got to a breaking point, and I still hold my head up high and say that had everything to do with my life outside of education and nothing to do with education itself. But even needing to point that out shows like how unhealthy my relationship to education is and how much like it has become entangled with like my identity and my self-worth, which is disgusting to like, not disgusting, but you know, it's really embarrassing to like admit online. But again, in thinking about like the values I have and the values I want to hold, I think it's important to be honest about, the fact that like I'm human, and as wonderful as it is to do a PhD, to record it, to have fun, to do this, like it's just not that straightforward. And actually there are loads of things I wish I knew in developing my academic identity, that would mean I have such a healthier like self-esteem and relationship to myself and my work. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, the final thing is just reflecting more, making more of these videos, as well as the content I'd like to make to help others more directly. And yeah, I just want to enjoy it, and I want to feel like I am being true to my values and what I say. I think that is enough oversharing for one day. But thank you so much for watching and listening, and being here. And I wish you the best with whatever is happening for you after this video. And also please subscribe and like and all of that stuff.